Right.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Empowering Healthy Women Thursday night 30-minute hangout. This is JoJo Bennington. I'm so happy to see all of you here. And wow, you know, what is going on around here? Why are we doing this thing every Thursday night? So, you know, Liddy, my friend Liddy, look, smile, Liddy, go, ee. So Liddy and I got together and decided, as we were chatting, that we don't really, you know, outside of our businesses and outside of things that we do every day, we don't really have like time to plug in for ourselves and fill up our own cup and talk about girl stuff, you know, talk about our women's issues and things that are important to us and guys could really care less about most of the time. And so to get a space together where we have community and sisterhood and, you know, hopefully answers to things or even maybe pose some questions. So we have such an amazing group of women around us that you will be meeting and being introduced to as the weeks progress. And we're just excited to have all of them on to share their special knowledge and wisdom. And so just so you know, so Lydia and I both, we're in business together. We are also friends in life and sisters for life. And we are also both nutritional consultants, and we've been working with nutrition for a very long time. And so we have lots of little, you know, ins and outs, pieces that are unique to each one of us, but our main goal is to help people get healthy. And whether that's mentally, whether that's physically, however that looks, that's what we're here to do. And so as we were talking about topics tonight, we were sort of thinking about some of the places that we lack and we can fill in. And so, you know, for some of us, that's, you know, pre-menopausal, so perimenopausal. Some of us, that's postmenopausal. Some of us, that's, you know, where are we lacking in our meals that we're eating every day? Where are we lacking as far as, you know, if we're pregnant, we're new moms, if we aren't getting enough meals or calories in. So we were just looking at our life in that way. And so I know, Lydia, there's some ideas of direction of where we're going to go tonight. So I'm just going to hand it off to you and let you say hello and take us on a journey.
Well, thank you, JoJo. And truly, life is a journey. And I have to say, it's so great just to have, I think, sisterhood just all by itself. Just understanding that, you know, each and every one of us that are on the call here, we're all going to go through kind of like this journey from, you know, being a young child to the motherhood, then to, you know, having children and trying to figure that whole thing out. And then, you know, I'm right now, I'm past that perimenopause. I'm in the postmenopausal phase. And so I was saying to JoJo, you know, what if we just actually talked about this whole cycle, and then we'll go swing full circle and we'll go back to motherhood. So that way, you know, those of us maybe that are on the call, that maybe you have some families, members that might be younger than you, or it might be that you have children and grandchildren. And as a result of that, I mean, we're talking all about the same thing. So this evening, I was taking a look at the whole conversation around hormonal. And when we start taking a look at hormonal issues, we can start seeing them like physically. My mother would say to me, well, Liddy, you know what? You know, skin is wonderful, you know, until about the age of 30. And then you start to develop some aging character. And she said, it's just some, you know, definition in your face. And I said, gosh, Mom, I'm doing good. You know, I'm 30, you know, and I'm doing good. But 31 started showing up, and 32, and then it went on. And I'm like, okay, now what about this stuff? And what's going on? And then about 5 years ago, I just hated like how my skin looked and how my arms looked. It was like, okay, there's no muscle left. And I mean, I'm going through this. Yeah. And so all of a sudden I started to ask myself, okay, what's really going on? And, you know, having a background in doing biofeedback, quantum energy work, and as a certified nutrition consultant, I started asking myself some questions like, how could we get to the core? How can we get to the core to restore the core? And when the conversation came through a phone call, and it was Dave talking about telomeres, I just said, this game's over. I mean, this is the day that we just get to go and look at this in a whole new way. And so I started just adding the product B, and I took the cleanse because I think that we all need, cleansing going on. And as a result of that, here's what happened. In 16 weeks, and I can't really see this, but I got some muscles. And I'm not, the person that's like doing the workouts. And so as a result of that, I thought, you know what, this does work. And if you could actually look at everything in life, that if you can get to the core and restore, and knowing that we have to get through it. So the deal is, we don't get to go around it. We didn't go over it. We don't get under it. We have to go through it. So everything in life, if you say that there's some challenges, if we looked at that and got real strong and said, we just have to go through this, we're gonna make it. And understanding that there's cycles in life, and all we have to do is look at the symptoms. So it gets really easy when you look at symptoms, because it's just symptoms that give you the clue, sort of like looking at the dashboard on your car. So tonight, what I thought I would do is break it down to like 10 symptoms, or can it be signs that might start to show up as it is, and some people start having these symptoms start showing up in their 30s and the 40s and then the 50s. So the older you are, they say the less degree of issues with abnormal cell replication. You know where I'm going. So, and the younger we are, it just means that the greater stress that there is in the body. And the body might not be sloughing, the uterine lining as well. It needs to be sloughing it. So we have like all of these different conversations happening. So here we are. So here are the 10 peri-menopause. This is like before the menopause, perimenopause signs. Irregular periods. And that means that some might be shorter, lighter, or they could be longer and heavier. Now I remember going for a walk, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I'm having a real big problem right now. It's just like, it's everywhere. So I know that you get to a point and you say, well, how do you prepare for that? Well, I don't know if there's really a way other than, you just kind of like use the pad and you start looking at that, but it can be intense. Now, here's when menopause starts to take place. Menopause starts to take place 12 months after you have your last period. That's when you go into that menopause phase. So all this while you're in your perimenopause phase. Migraines. If you've had migraines when it is that you were just cycling, you will experience probably even more migraines. And so we're going to take a look at that tonight. And it's just abnormal brain activity. It's the pituitary in the hypothalamus. And I'm going to help you understand what a hot flash is tonight. So when you actually have your friends, seeing this, all of a sudden you're going to like, okay, I got this. And you can show them and they're going to laugh. Actually, they're going to laugh. So, and then we have hot flashes, as I just mentioned, but they can actually go into night sweats. And so sometimes people experience like I'm laying in a pool of water. This is gross. And I have girlfriends who are like, Liddy, I know I don't even sleep in the same room anymore, not in the same bedroom, because he snores and I'm sweating. I mean, we're just like, we're a mess. And furthermore, men can sweat, and men have issues with perspiring at night as well. So know that can happen. 75 to 80% of women experience that, and sometimes it shows up in heart palpitations, stress around that, and then we have like low libido. So that comes, and that can be the shift in the sex drive. And they often have said that if you have a good sex drive before, perimenopause, it's been said that you can maintain that, all through your cycle of peri and menopause and postmenopause. So, but there's the thinning of the tissue. We will experience some things like dryness, vaginal dryness. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Mood swings, anger, like you're on the edge a lot. Crying spells. You want to keep this plateau. So we're going to talk about plateau, how to keep your composure and not dip into depression. And that's another cycle. And then weight gain. Here we go. Weight gain. How many people start to feel like those, a couple, rings around the middle, and then all of a sudden it looks like a spare tire, and then it's like, wow, I look like I'm pregnant again, and I'm not even pregnant. And, I even walked up to a girlfriend and I said, gosh, you're on your next baby. And she goes, Liddy, no. And I was like so embarrassed, but I didn't know, but she looked definitely like she was about 6 months pregnant, and I hadn't seen her for a while. And so she goes, no, thanks. And so I'll never slip up on that again. So, but what happens with the weight gain? We're back to the hormonal conversation. And what happens is that it's a time frame where you can have increased heart challenges, the lowering of the lean muscle. So here's a key on the weight gain. And I think in being part of Isogenics, you know this and know this and then know this. But here's what happens. You don't usually see women that are in perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause and having issues as they do like an average person. Why? Because your protein intake is high, and protein builds muscle, and muscle burns fat. And I'm going to say hormonally it's going to change you. It's like your sex drive is going to change. I mean, it is everything that's going to actually be in place. So we're going to be talking about protein. All right. So then cognitive problems. About 60% of the women experience short-term memory loss. Now, the short-term memory loss is sometimes I lose my keys. Where did I put that? Gosh, I thought I had that. I thought I did that. I lost my car in the parking lot. It's a good thing I have my little beeper, some people say. And like, what way did I go into the store? And I'm coming out a different door. I don't know. I just trying to, and it's like they're trying to sort this out. And it's kind of during that phase again. But the good news is that the brain can repair. Honestly, that's the greatest news. And then we talked about the vaginal dryness, breast tenderness. Breast tenderness actually is when we have what is called the thinning of the vaginal tissue. And that goes back to the whole protein conversation again as well. Breast tenderness, we have water retention, but we also have fat retention. And it's also the breast tissue is a lymphatic site. So we have to take a look at what's going on with our lymphatic system and having lymphatic massaging, massage yourself and get the garbage out. So when, I'm gonna give a little tip here in a minute. Urinary incontinence is another one. So if we have urinary incontinence, of course, we have, maybe some leakage. And so that's all related to muscle, Kegel exercises, going for walks, even take a mini tramp, those are good exercises. And then sleep issues. So sleep, if you have weight issues, you have sleep issues. That's as simple as it is. Sleep is a major issue. So anybody, I know that when I had some major health issues, but weight issues, I weighed over 200 pounds, but I did not sleep. And I have always been a light sleeper and a shallow breather. So what happened is that, I was basically awake all the time and I just couldn't take the weight off. But I got to the point where I started to realize that my body was not breaking food down, and it's not necessarily what you eat, it's what you're absorbing. So when we talk about nutrition, nutrition comes from the fact that does your body have to digest it, and can it be processed without being digested first? So so now I'm going to go kind of like backwards. I'm going to take the sleep issues. Sleep, we need 2 hours to get into REM sleep, 4 hours in, and 2 hours to come out. So that's how we created this whole, I need, 8 hours of sleep. So that's kind of how the sleep pattern goes into kind of like that phase. We want to be in bed before midnight. And so that's another thing for me. I mean, I like to hang out and keep going, and it's like I'm not tired, right? So now I'm starting to like take some sleep support and take some tea to kind of like wind my body down so that I'm actually going to start having my body do the cleansing and so on. So sleep issues, get your body to that point of where you can be in that dream state, and that's critical. And then we talked a little bit about the urinary incontinence. I like to just say that protein is going to be a critical piece here, and so and your minerals and your vitamins. So if I can break it down tonight to have you look at the equation for protein. When you're trying to maintain your body composition, maintain it, what you do is you take your body weight times 0.4 grams of protein. Body weight, that's going to be your ideal, body weight, times 0.4 grams of protein, and that's what you take to maintain your body composition. If you're wanting to turn up your fat burning furnace, if you want to go back, regain your body composition, or you're challenged with some unhealthy issues, and you might be in this, menopause state, you want to take your body weight times 0.8 grams of protein. And then if it is that you're working with an athlete, or you're like, say, I just need to go back and buff up a little bit, and take your body weight times 1.0. So 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And I know that we're talking about pacing, take on that protein, make that shake, and maybe drink that throughout the morning. And, mid morning, I like to say like around 10:30 or so, give your body like the Ionic Supreme in water, and, drink more water. And of course, the body weight divided by 2 is the number of ounces of water that we need per day. That's for our skin. And you start taking on, these amazing, I'm going to say the essentials, the complete essentials. When you take on those complete essentials, and it's got the omegas, and you start putting extra omegas in for your brain, it's like everything fires. I mean, it's vaginal, no more dryness. It's like your brain works and your joints work, your skin is soft. I mean, it's like, yay. So the ISA omegas are just fabulous. So you're going to see, like, people will ask you, like, what are you using for skincare products? Like, what are you using for skincare products? And you're like, omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. And so basically, we can actually use whatever's going on the outside shows up on the inside first. So you feel like your skin's dry, your internals are dry. And so that's kind of like a clue. So then I wanted to say a word about just what happens when we are like wearing a bra. And so this is kind of a woman's thing. So here's, if you think about like where your thoracic is, your thorax, okay, that's the point in which it is where the breast tissue should not be below that point. So, so if you're thinking about just putting your finger, put your finger like right where that thorax is, and then just draw a line across. Okay, if there's anything below that point, that means that needs to be raised up. And I say, don't let those girls hang too low. When we actually have them too low, they are a lymphatic site that will hold on to toxins. And our family has a BRCA gene issue. And so we are carriers of the BRCA gene. So several of my sisters have had breast removal, and so mastectomy and vasectomy. Hysterectomy rather. So the hysterectomy part for them is a combination. They say that if you have BRCA gene, that you're likely to have maybe ovarian cancer as well as breast cancer, and all of that, becomes a greater concern. So I just said, when everybody had the scare in our family, and I have 3 sisters that had their breasts removed and ovaries removed, and they went to instant, night sweats. Oh my gosh, hormonal brain fog. It was just like, everything in their life just like went upside down. And that's what happens gradually. But here's why that happens. So I'm going to see if I can't have you draw something out. Okay, so grab your piece of paper. On the top of the piece of paper, draw a little circle. Okay, so here, this is your brain. Okay, you can draw your circle. That's your brain. Okay, and then I want you to draw your ovaries. Okay, and I want you to draw your adrenal glands. So these are your ovaries, this is your adrenal glands, and this is your pituitary, this is your brain, and this is your hypothalamus. So here's what happens. The pituitary and the hypothalamus tell the body it's time to ovulate. And then the ovaries say, gotcha, well, got it handled. And so this is a cycle that continues, okay, back and forth. Now it's time to go into perimenopause. And so here's the test. Cycle. No, we're going to take vacation. We're on vacation this month. No, so it's just a mini vacation. So it sends a message back and says, we gotcha. Sends a message over to the adrenals and says, adrenals, can you take over? Can you fill in for this little vacation they're taking? And your adrenals are like, yeah, no problem. We got the resources to do that. We know how to do that. So it sends a message back and everybody's like, cool. So the pituitary says, okay, got that handled. Now, and the hypothalamus. So now here's what happens. Next month, they're like, So all of a sudden, more and more and more shutdown and more stress. And so the adrenals are like, no, we are already on burnout. We cannot take on the whole load. We could take just maybe a part-time, just like a little mini vacation, but no, not like retired. We're not going into retirement. So here's what happens. The adrenal says, no, and the brain says, okay, you've got to go. This is the job. It's not time. You don't have a backup system. And they're like, no, we're done. We're retiring. Do you get it? No. And this goes back and forth until the pituitary and hypothalamus know that time is passing. And all of a sudden, we have a clash. We have their messages going here and going here. This is your hot flash. That's your hot flash. It's just the body's having this conversation. So now here's what happens. So if we begin to say, well, how do you handle this situation? How do you get over hot flashes? Here's the clue. You pay attention to the adrenal glands. And your adrenals, if they have what is called adrenal support, and the adrenals can actually rebuild. And so there is a wonderful ingredient, and it was in the tea, the chai tea that the company had, and actually it is in some of the other products, urethral. And that ingredient, I mean, a lot of people that are actually in health food stores, when they take a look at some product lines, they're looking for that one ingredient because it's very hard to find and it's not used in many products anymore. So Isogenics has that. I want to even say it's in the Cleanse for Life. I believe it's in the Ionic Supreme. And I know that it is in that chai tea that we had. If you still have some, I still have some because I bought lots of that. So those are the kinds of things that you want to do. So you and I know that we can actually go back and rebuild. Is that exciting? I mean, when I realized that ingredient was in our products, it was another victory. It was a celebration. So we can turn that whole thing off, and we got our brain turned on now. And this whole weight gain conversation, we're getting ahead of that because we're going to turn up our fat burning furnace, and that's going to change that whole hormone. It's going to change that whole waistline conversation. And that the program works. And that's why they're seeing all these amazing results. Now, low libido, that's going to change as well, because all of a sudden your body doesn't have these disconnects anymore. And the ionic supreme is important for both men and women. And that what we are looking at is like how this brain communicates with everything. So I always like to say, even the AMP NOx is so important because we need oxygen in the brain. The brain is the master, center for communication. And when this brain is functioning, it sends the messages everywhere. If we don't eat good food, the brain, it doesn't cross your, blood-brain barrier. So the brain says, we don't have any food. We don't have any resources. Shut down, slow down, take it easy. We're probably going to get fed every third day. That's how it goes around here. So if your routine is like on a roller coaster, so is your health. So your body is paying attention. It's got like antennas up all the time, knowing that what we put in, if it can receive those resources, we have victory. And if it is that there's nothing going in, it says shut down. They say my metabolism is slowing down. Your metabolism is slowing down because there's no resources there. So it's on burnout. So we can go back and restore from the core. The good news is that, fear not, it's just cells. And if we know that everything is cells, I don't care if they're saggy cells, if they are sticky cells, if it is that they're abnormal or inferior cells. The body has data that says we want to be superior cells. We want to clean that membrane. We want that cleanse for life. Take that so we can actually clean, that cell membrane, and so we can assimilate and we can have the elimination going on, just like your skin has clogged pores and your cells have clogged pores. We know what that looks like. Toxicity is locked up, blocked up, and it's painful. But our body actually experiences that. And so then, back to the brain, the whole, blood-brain barrier, the brain actually has tension. It swells. It can take on fluids. And I always like to say, increase the whole intake of the omegas. And we have brain boost and brain sleep support. Those are really key factors for the brain as well. And the AMP NOx. I mean, you know what? Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule, and AMP NOx is not nitric oxide, but it actually allows the body to produce the nitric oxide, which then signals to the brain in less than 1 second, signals to the brain and says, go and tell the body to communicate. It actually, then the brain says, go communicate. And everything starts to come together. And then it sends a signal to your immune system and says, go fight the battles. Abnormal cells, bacteria, viral invaders, this is your frontline defense system, and says, go after it. So that's the signal that it gets when it's producing the nitric oxide. And then one other thing, it says to your blood vessels. So I always like to say, if you're thinking about, a straw, and you pinch that straw, like all of a sudden it's like it's blocked up. Well, what nitric oxide does, that is, developed inside your endothelium in your blood cardiovascular system, but it tells it to expand and relax, not be tight and constricted and restricted. So if those three things are going on and our body is communicating, it's celebrating. There's a dance inside of this body. And when there's a dance inside of you, you don't have depression. You don't have, anger thoughts. You don't have this anxiety roller coaster mood swings like, oh, be careful, here comes whatever. It's coming. I can feel it coming. You almost like have to guard and, press yourself up like that. So perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause should be no sweat.
Wow, no sweat. Literally no sweat, right? Can you believe how fast 30 minutes goes around here in this life? It's quick. I have notes like all over the place. I love the little diagram you did. That was really helpful. I never knew that. Oh my gosh. So there you go. And I know that not everyone is utilizing the product that we are utilizing, and that's okay. You guys can utilize whatever works great for you. And if you need to know more about anything that she was talking about, then we can also take a look at that. But it really, in looking at the symptoms and the steps, and this is obviously going to have to be a part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, 6, 7 conversation, because there is a lot here. So we are like at 6:01, and I want to stay true to our time, so you guys know that we're always going to be true to our time, and cut it then. But Liddy, thank you so much. That was incredible. Everybody blow Liddy a big kiss, and we will see you next week. That was incredible. And we have a big surprise next week too, I think. Ooh, so I'll tell you soon. Have a good night. Thank you, guys.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Liddy.
You're welcome.